Geek Out!
What would you say your favorite M&M flavor is?
Crispy.
Is flavor even the right word for it?
Well, I mean, there's a different taste.
Flavor is what I would use, but I agree that it doesn't feel right.
If you said that, everyone in the world would know what you meant, even if it was the wrong thing to say.
They would just like push up their nose.
Technically. No. I like crispy a lot, and they took them away for a while when they brought them back.
Yeah.
I go with the. I wasn't gonna say it's not really classic because it's not classic M&Ms, but peanut.
Peanuts is solid.
That's a solid choice.
The original offshoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say I like the what do they call it? Like the mega peanut.
Super like.
you get your bang for your buck with those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, buddy. That's on the bag. The mega M&Ms. Hey, buddy.
You're in for a good time.
Yeah, there's only
Sam
3 of them
going,
in here,
hey.
but you're gonna love them. What about you?
You
gotta eat them like an apple.
Yeah. Like I am curious about these caramel M&Ms, but I have to go with Chris because I remember like going through like on a Halloween going over your stash. You'd be like, okay, cool, regular M&Ms, cool, almond M&Ms. Oh shit,
almond
M&Ms.
Is that a thing?
What's the yellow bag?
The peanut.
Yellow is the peanut.
Oh, what's the orange bag? Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Yeah,
I'm a
They're
peanut.
good. They're good. You know what? You know what's underrated? This is the goddamn underrated shit. The pretzel M&Ms.
I was about to say the pretzel.
Yeah,
The
Snake
pretzels-
Eyes.
Snake Eyes.
Because you get
Pretzels
you
are
get
damn good.
you get the salty with the sweet.
Yeah.
That is
Next level.
that's next level.
Mm.
But crispy all the way because I went back. I remember crispy being like the first kind of like
That's like the
what?
first fringe
like
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're like the fucking cursed earth of that shit. Am I gonna make it back? It's the blue ones. Crispy's blue. Pretzel's purple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peanut butter's really good too.
Peanut butter's my favorite thing.
I don't remember. Is caramel?
Caramel's brand new, so
Yeah. Is it black?
Maybe.
I don't. I've had them. and I don't remember.
Yeah.
Didn't leave an impression. Next time I'm at a gas station or something.
Yeah, they're definitely there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just I have to know.
At the
I
local
think
Giant, they have like a wall of M&Ms
You'll
now
be
because there's so
fine,
many
yeah.
different
You'll be
flavors.
like,
Okay.
But it's not going to be your favorite.
All right.
You know what we should do? We should go New York Comic Con. Let's go to the M&M store.
I've never been in there.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All the times I've
Is
been
it like
two floors.
Is it like a candy store, but everything's M&Ms?
Yes. And also they have like clothes and stuff like that.
How does that warrant its own store?
Well, M&M's like OG.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? How do we want our own store, Sam? How do you want your own store?
One of the biggest.
How about you? Stallone, M&M's,
like some
Stallone.
shit. One of the big draws of it is that they have every single color and flavor of M&M that they've ever had. So like even the like limited edition, like Christmas and Valentine's Day, like they have the Valentine's Day white and pink.
Oh yeah. Classic, yeah.
And they just have like by the pound.
Oh.
Sure. But like like you can make your own assortment and you just weigh it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be chaos.
You're starting to win
That
me
would
over.
be
and
absolute
From what I've
chaos.
seen, that store is always chaos.
Yeah. But yeah, it's right there in Times Square.
It is. I know. Yes.
Across the street from the Hershey store, which is literally just a little candy store, and they just
we
have
could go down
every
a
bar
rabbit hole of favorite candies.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, let me just say, welcome to another installment of Catching Up.
Yeah.
I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And this week we have an interview with Amy Reeder and Brandon Montclare about the return of Rocket Girl. Pretty sweet, right? Yeah. Their Image comic series comes back on Wednesday, August 2nd, in comic book stores everywhere, and on Comixology with issue number 8. Though I think they just did a re-release of issue number 7 to help get people up to speed. And, of course, you can get the first trade as well. But, yeah, let's let them talk about it. Hey, they're New York local, too. They know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
What's their favorite flavor of M&M? We'll never know. We recorded this.
Yeah, we didn't ask.
That was such a good segue, and then you pulled back the veil.
Yeah. Well, let's let them talk. And joining us this week, we have Brandon Montclare and Amy Reeder. Their Image comic series Rocket Girl returns in comic stores everywhere and on Comixology with issue number 8, part of the second story arc, on Wednesday, August 2nd. Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, with the return of Rocket Girl, we're seeing a lot of kind of callbacks to stuff that's been there as early as the beginning of the series, as early as issue 1. What's kind of the mission statement going into this second arc? What are some of the overarching themes that we're seeing?
I'm like seeing if Brandon wants to go first. Well, like, I guess the main thing is that we have seen this. We kind of feel like this second arc, is this plus the first arc are actually one main arc, and so a lot of it is hailing back to the beginning because like it's basically like kind of a long form story arc that had, a knowledgeable break in between. I'm not the writer here, so I feel like I'm not saying this right.
I usually talk too much, so I figure I'll let Amy always start because then she can cover a lot of things and it reduces my talking time. But
okay, well,
no, yeah, like Amy was saying, we kind of designed it. The story that we really wanted to tell isn't encapsulated in the first 10 issues. That's what she was saying. We tried to fit it into 5, but then felt really tight, and the story was doing pretty well. So we're like, the first 2 arcs. 100 years from now, it'll probably be the first trade paperback. I'll have these first 10 issues in it. But yeah, I mean, it's a time travel story. It's about going back and trying to correct things, so to speak. And a lot of the repetition that we use is just kind of thematic to that, where, hey, we saw all this before. You try to change things, but it's always the same. You can't really escape fate, or can you? That's kind of the question that we're building towards. So when you see old locations revisited and older and younger versions of characters, that's kind of what it's all about. Is that how much of it is predestined and how much can you really change the future?
As you mentioned, this is a time travel story. DeYoung goes from this cool kind of cyberpunk 2013 to grit grimy, like Oliver and Company era New York City in 1986. Both in terms of scripting and visually, how do you capture this like 1980s vision of the future in the 1980s themselves? How do you kind of do that dichotomy, that juxtaposition?
Well, I mean, it kind of ends up making visual sense, really, because you kind of said it yourself, like it's like both the 80s reality and the 80s imagination, So it's really just a super 80s series, even though like a lot of it's set in the future. It's just like what we assumed would have happened by now back in the 80s based on movies and stuff. So yeah, it's just it's fun to kind of do this retro future thing and let people's imaginations come true. And it's funny because I feel like the approach has been like we didn't want it to be condescending or making fun of 80s future stuff, because sometimes people do that where it's like, oh, ha ha ha, that we thought that this would be cool, but it's really ridiculous. Or if we kind of saw it more as like bad special effects or something like that. But we really wanted to make it basically feel real, be based on the 80s imagination rather than like directly from 80s movies, but more like what their potential could be, even though a lot of those 80s movies have pretty good special effects.
Yeah, and just it's obviously something that's been popular. When we started, Rocket Girl was before Stranger Things. It was before Deadly Class and stuff like that. And it was, so I kind of, one of the most interesting things for me about it is that we're doing like a period piece in the 80s. So like, in my mind, it's kind of like the most recent thing you can do a period piece on. And maybe that's because it's kind of, I was a little kid in the 80s, so I really kind of, would think of myself growing up in the 90s. And it was kind of like the most recent remote time out of my head, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But now it's like everything, and now I'm just watching some mega miniseries or whatever you would call it on TV about the 90s coming. So I guess things move.
Oh, there is what is it?
Yeah, it's literally called the 90s.
Oh, the
so
CNN
it's like
thing?
Yeah,
because
it's like a documentary, but it looked pretty like one of those exciting documentaries type things. So
yeah.
Those have been really
I have
good.
no idea where it is or who it's coming from. I just saw,
I think they just did like 97.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they CNN's been doing them, and they did like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and then I think the 60s and 70s are on Netflix. And I'm a documentary nerd. Like I love documentaries, even if.
Have you seen Chef's Table?
Chef's Table, is that the one that you rave about?
all the time.
Yes, I have seen some of that. I couldn't remember. But yeah, the 60s the 60s and 70s ones were like fascinating because each episode is focused on a certain thing, like movies, TV, politics.
Oh, okay.
You know, the 60s of course have one devoted to like the British invasion, and 70s is very, you know, Vietnam and like very TV heavy too, because they're like that's kind of the shift of
very Nixon-y.
Yes, very Nixon-y. But one of the things I liked about it happens in one of the earlier issues. I always like little notes and details in comics is when DeYoung's like flying off into with the rocket. There's a issue of Dark Knight Returns that's flying, and I was like, that's such a nice, great little touch. I love that.
Yeah. No, and that was kind of like, you know, all comics. In 1986 being it was not an accident. You could pick any year in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But 86 with so much stuff happening, including Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and we have some why can't I think of Star what?
Starstruck we put
Starstruck.
in there. And, Matt Wagner's Mage and stuff like that. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So, not Watchmen, because Watchmen gets too much credit.
No, there is a big yellow smiley face in issue 8.
That's
true. There is, and it gets shot. So yeah, that was definitely a nod to Watchmen. It's fun to put little things like that in there.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I was like, it's Carrie Kelly.
Well, there's also I feel like there's also
there's so much Carrie Kelly in Diane Johansson. That's not
more in Commissioner Gordon, right?
Well,
or Commissioner Gomez. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if the attitude's the same, but that was definitely my.
With the glasses.
With Andy,
there's a lot of Commissioner Gordon in Commissioner Gomez, I guess you would say. But the glasses, Amy gave her Robin glasses. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of Carrie Kelly.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the
can we all agree she's the best Robin?
She's my favorite Robin.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Speak, Samuel.
I really like Nightwing.
Well, did you ever hear the story about supposedly the creation of Carrie Kelly was, and this blows my freaking mind.
You can cuss, Jake. We earned that red E.
Wait. No, I'm trying my best to like not cuss for an episode. I might have already broken that. I don't know. I can't remember. But Frank Miller and John Byrne are on an airplane together, and if that airplane went down, like 80s comics would have been like fucked.
You broke it.
I know. It deserved it. But anyway, John Byrne and Frank Miller were both like sitting on a plane together, and John Byrne's like, "What are you doing, Frank?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to reinvent Batman for the next 40 years." And and he's like, "What are you doing, John Byrne?" He's like, "Well, I'm reinventing Superman, post-crisis." And I guess they were talking, and John Byrne supposedly said, "You should make Robin a girl." And Frank Miller was like, "That's weird." And then, I've never thought of it like that before. And supposedly, like, to this day, like, his favorite character he's ever done is Carrie Kelly. And you could tell, like, the way he writes Carrie Kelly, like, just that extra oomph in there. And she's got an interesting thing in Dark Knight 3 as well.
She comes off better in Dark Knight 3 than she does Strikes Again.
Catgirl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the latest Dark Knight 3 that just finally wrapped up has some very cool Carrie Kelly stuff. If you're a fan of Carrie Kelly, I suggest reading DK3, The Master Race.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Dark Knight Strikes Again. Don't get me started.
Oh no, we could have a podcast on that thing because that's one of my favorite books of all time.
He's not being ironic.
Fantastic.
I'm not being ironic either. I used to work at a comic shop, and I would try to explain to people why I think that's why it's like one of my favorite Batman stories of all time.
Yeah. I think you are necessarily a contrary person if you do it, but it is a really good movie. And this is how I kind of always end it. If I'm kind of going to pull something off the shelf, they're right next to each other. And I'll pull Dark Knight Strikes Again off the shelf more than I do Dark Knight Returns. So
we used to have like
a
employee pick section or whatever, and I put Dark Knight Strikes Again up there, and I would hear people walk in and they'd be like, "Who the hell put up Dark Knight Strikes Again?" And I'd be like, "Did you read it?" They're like, "No, but I heard it sucks." I'm like, "Then shut up." Look at Plastic Man flush a man down himself as a toilet. Anyway, yeah, I could go on forever about how much I love that book.
So, outside of like 80s comics, I feel like there's kind of an anime manga bent to this whole thing. And Amy, you used to do work with Tokyo Pop. There's that in this upcoming issue. There is and we actually talked about this, I think, in the latest issue of Image Plus. one of my favorite bits of that action sequence is like DeYoung punches a guy and it like through a giant onomatopoeia panel, like a giant crack, and which I feel like is very manga-esque. Like what kind of mangas were you guys kind of drawing from, or animes?
It's. I feel like I'm not like super like okay. I kind of feel like the anime manga vibe is in me, but I am not like super well versed in that stuff. It's just that like something about like the assumptions of it like have been deeply ingrained in me. Like my favorite movie of all time was this thing that I saw as a kid over and over again, and called Unico, and it was like a Tezuka film that was translated into English, and it was really disturbing and beautiful. And so I just like it for some reason. Like manga and anime just like makes more sense to me. And like I was a kid in the 80s, and so like a lot of the animations, I like refused to watch live action. I would only watch animation, and most of the animations that I could stomach were usually like farmed out to Japan. So I don't know. It's just like a general inspiration, but I guess like there's a bit of inspiration from like Mega Man and Astro Boy, but also just kind of a general like love story to well played action. Akira's a big influence.
You definitely see it with like the bikes and the futurist or 2013 sequences.
Yeah. But actually, like, the onomatopoeia, like, using Crash and stuff like that, I feel like that's actually more like a Frank Quitely inspiration thing. As far as, like, people that I follow that I think do really creative things with sound effects, I definitely think he's one of the best that I've seen. And I'm sure that some of it's inspired by other artists that I'm not as well-versed in. But, yeah, so I don't know. It made sense for the scene. But, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things like just it's obviously you have so little input as a writer on that type of stuff, but just I say this a lot to people who ask about advice for writing and everything else, and you really have to kind of put the artist first. And everyone says that. I don't know if everyone does, and I hope Amy thinks that I do that when we collaborate. But to me, something that would have been so cool and that I miss, it was there's like Barcade here, which is like a bar with all the old arcade games, and you can go get a drink and everything else. And I'm not much of a drinker, but like, oh, you're going to arcade, it's cool, it's gonna be like an old arcade. But they have all the music shut off on them, and they're just blasting whatever music they want to put in on a bar. And I said, well, I remember being a kid and going into an arcade, and you would hear all the bells and whistles and the machines and the clacks and everything else. I said that's such a cool part of being in an arcade and such an 80s experience, right? So I thought, yeah, wouldn't it be cool just visually, like it'll be a sound effects page type thing for Amy. And what better place than the kind of cacophony that's inside an arcade? And like I said, kind of missing that a little bit, going to somebody's birthday party at Barcade recently. I think Amy was there, but I don't even remember who it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but yeah.
Exactly. I was like, oh, well, missing it. So, just something like that, like I know Amy will do a great job on it. And that isn't even drawing, that's putting in special effects and incorporating them. It's definitely something that's like kind of like, it's like being a fan and saying, oh, I get to... What would be cool to see somebody draw? And then say, hey, Amy, do you think this is cool too? And if she says yes, then we're off to the races.
Yeah, I definitely think incorporating a lot of special effects is pretty fun. I know a lot of artists, they feel like, you're not doing your job right if it needs special effects.
Sound effects.
Or sound effects, sorry. SFX, whichever one that is. But I don't know. I think it adds to it. I also think it slows the reading down a little bit, because sometimes if you have just it helps you rest your eyes so that you're not like just skipping through a bunch of art without like feeling the beats. I feel like the sound effect kind of gives you a beat a little bit.
Amy, there's a video, and I don't know where Amy posted it. Maybe she'll know instantly. Of you're drawing some sound effect with a French curve.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I was like, I look at a French curve. I was like, oh, you can only do like one kind of thing with it. You know what I mean? But that's a video worth watching. Just because we're on the topic of sound effects, it's just Amy's moving it and drawing it, and moving. I don't even know if that's still public anymore, but
Yeah, it should be on YouTube. I think it's it's definitely on Facebook.
Yeah, and I don't I don't know what the topic even was, unless it was using a French curve, but it was amazing. So
yeah, it was, because a lot of people don't understand how it works. So I was like, here you go, guys.
Yeah, I certainly didn't, and still don't, but it was amazing to watch. Amy can also fold a fitted sheet, apparently. So sometimes if she's coming over,
I'm very spatially minded, we'll say. Like I didn't start out being a very good artist, but I have always had some weird like understanding of like spatial stuff for whatever reason.
If I got a pile of clean laundry, maybe I would leave the fitted sheet for last. Maybe Amy will stop by and I'll make her fold this before I put it in my closet.
I'll have to check that video out, because like my two type of videos I watch that are like calming for me are watching people draw and watching people play the drums. I think it's like that's the two things that are like super calming for me. Like Todd McFarlane does this thing on Facebook where he'll
play the drums.
He'll play the drums while drawing Spawn, and it's pretty damn incredible. No, he'll be like, hey, draw this, and it looks so easy. And I'm like, I can draw Wolverine now, and it just looks like a hot dog. And I'm like, it's not even close.
It's a hot dog with claws.
Hot dog with claws, yeah.
That was the old, with the John Buscema, the old Draw the Comics the Marvel Way video. Can you draw a line? Can you draw a box? Can you draw a cylinder?
Yeah.
Well, that's all you need. Okay,
Yeah.
and then they would draw like the through line, and then the cylinder, and then the box for the head, and the cylinder for the body.
Yeah.
And then all you gotta do is fill in the details. So it'd be like a couple of lines, and then a box and a cylinder, and then it would be a Spider-Man page, and that was how I learned how to draw. So it was all about kind of the philosophy of layouts and storytelling and that type of stuff. But
you know what's funny is that
I'm going to learn how to draw it, and it's like just fill in the details, and you can't process that as a neat girl.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is like the better I become as an artist, the more I realize that everything's boiled down to the basic shapes.
Oh no, of course. Just you'll break your heart if you sell that, put that in a video and say this is how you're gonna draw comics that look like Spider-Man. Just take it and watch it. For somebody who's already skilled and can draw, it might give you, like I said, pointers on storytelling and stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think you're not patient enough. I think it can be learned.
Not from that video. It broke my heart.
I'm definitely not patient enough, because I'm like, how do I make it look like Steve McNiven's Wolverine? And I'm just like, there's a circle, there's this triangle. Screw it, I'll just watch.
I'm trying to draw
Logan.
like a John Byrne, like Galactus, and it looks like a melted Lego man. I'm just like, okay, close enough.
Yeah, I think patience is like the most important thing, because it's like you can't go from A to Z. You have to do the entire alphabet.
And you have to be patient enough to fail first.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people, they don't really want to do that.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Well, I think even like, to kind of take it back to the art in Rocket Girl, and not so much melted Lego men in my own art section, but there is kind of like a punk rock sensibility as well. You kind of get that with the neon colors. You get that, 80s New York kind of lends itself. The Ramones are kind of in their heyday. And that was one of the things, talking about action scenes, like sometimes it's, again, very anime-esque, where it's just like a color wash, like in the background, like it's like bright yellow or it's bright blue, and it's just like almost like it draws attention to everything in the foreground. So I think that's pretty kick-ass as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, sometimes it just works out that way, and that's actually me going against my better judgment. Or no, not going against my better judgment, but going against my tendencies to overkill. So, yeah, sometimes luckily it's worked out where you just do a really splashy color in the background and it looks much better. I'm always trying to figure out how to do a little bit less with colors. My colors just take way too long. Yeah.
Oh, they look good.
They look good. You mentioned Frank Quietly earlier, and I definitely, when I was like, especially looking at like the covers and just like the way like DeYoung kind of like her body type, like I definitely got the Frank Quietly vibe on there. Is that somebody, like, I know you said it's a big influence, but is that somebody that you kind of follow pretty regularly, or that you kind of are, you would say you're heavily inspired by?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of his, and like actually at one point I had read his run on Shimura, who's like this like Japanese samurai style Judge Dredd, who's a girl.
Yeah. exactly.
Yeah, so actually, like, Rocket Girl's design is very inspired by Shimura.
Sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that's like probably my favorite thing he's ever done, which I hate saying because like I think he's really talented and that was like a really early work of his, but I just it's like I really like it when he colors himself and so that doesn't happen as much these days. And then also like it's like a nice complete story,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was gonna say you're blowing my mind right now because I remember I picked that book up at San Diego Comic-Con last year and I was reading it. And I was like trying to place because I was like the Rocket Girl's like design looks like super familiar because everything to me like I always look for a way for it to be like Judge Dredd related because I just love Judge Dredd. But that totally makes sense. Yeah, that's cool.
That's funny.
Oh wow, now I have to go back and read that again.
Oh, it's
that's
so
cool.
good.
Yeah. I've told this story before and got retold recently again. So Amy used to hate Frank Whiteley. So not as a person, but as an artist. It took her a couple of reads.
I didn't hate him, but yeah, I didn't get it at first.
Yeah.
But I think also this was at a time when I did start at Tokyo Pop. I did look at quote unquote American comics as like not as good, as having way too many lines, especially on the face. And so, yeah, Frank Whiteley has a lot of lines.
He does.
So it took me a little while to get it. And actually it was funny because I recently, he had like a gallery, he has like this really crazy art museum gallery showing in, Glasgow. And I just went up there for Glasgow Comic-Con and, but yeah, he had me record myself saying about how I didn't like his stuff at first. And they it's definitely the main thing that they incorporated in their video section of like different pros talking about him, which is kind of embarrassing, but he really wanted it. I think he likes it when people put him down because people are so high on him all the time.
Yeah.
So he tends to really listen to people when they say negative things.
That's funny.
I think that's crazy though. I just want compliments.
My favorite thing I've ever seen him draw, just real quick as a goofy thing, and it's really easy to find on like just Google Images, is he drew a picture of Judge Dredd going to sleep, but it's him in his bed and he's wearing like striped pajamas and he's reading a book that says law and then around it is like his lawgiver, but then the best part of it, the icing on the cake, is he still has his helmet on, but on top of his helmet is the little beanie.
Oh, the nightcap?
The nightcap,
yeah.
Nice. It's like the best. It's the best thing ever.
I'll have to dig that up.
It's
I
really
haven't
funny.
seen that.
Yeah, I think it's probably just like, a commission piece or something he drew for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that is, for some reason, that is the thing I always think of when Frank Whiteley is mentioned, is this silly little Judge Dredd image of him going to sleep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who drew that image of Miami Vice RoboCop that you have?
Miami Vice RoboCop.
It's like your profile picture.
Oh, I don't know. I think I just typed in funny RoboCop in Google, and because right now my profile picture right now is E.T., but it's
He-Man?
Skeletor is Elliot and E.T. is He-Man.
Oh.
So.
Ooh.
Yes. Power of Grayskull.
Yeah, with the power of Grayskull, we will fly over these FBI agents.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Speaking of love letters to the 80s.
Yes, yeah, that's about as 80s as it gets.
So I mean, with this arc, to take it back a bit,
Yes.
we're seeing tension between the Young and Annie. In 2013, we're seeing everything with the it starts with a Q, and it's an evil corporation because they're all evil.
Quantum Mechanics.
Quantum Mechanics. We're seeing that come to a head with the teen police force and Commissioner Gomez. We're seeing the Quantum Mechanics guy team up with his younger self, in the past. Is everything in these just escalate across these next 3 issues?
Yeah, it's going to, I would say that this issue really starts, it starts making things get more serious, and it might be preparing you for more seriousness, basically. Things are escalating, and these last 3 issues, it starts like doing this spiral chain of events that's kind of hard to reverse, I guess you could say. So. Yeah. Brandon?
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot's coming up. It's all tying together. It's really kind of like you think like in, not that I'm a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but things are getting bigger, things are getting faster, time's speeding up. Trying to make it bigger and faster and coming together quicker, and that kind of the unavoidability of fate. Because I think that's kind of the structure of any story. I tend to judge whether it's an album that I'm listening to, or a movie that you're watching, or a comic that you're reading. It's like how many times can you reread it and get more and more out of it? You talk about quantum mechanics. It's kind of a goof on quantum mechanics, and what's one more than quantum is quantum. It's not really a real word when it comes to, in the sense that quantum is used. You know what I mean? It's one beyond. But it was also a little bit of a nod, not to make this the Frank Whiteley show, but to Leo Quintum in All-Star Superman, kind of the crazy scientist who's kind of a light ray stand-in, which I was the editor on, by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley and Jamie Grant. And you just want to make it big and exciting and building and growing. To this big kind of ending that should, when you go back to page 1 of the first issue, say, now that makes sense to everything else. As much as comics for, most of all of our lifetimes has been, you read a month and you throw it away and then you read the next month. It's it's really a structured story, and it's really, like I said, it's nice to be able to work in the format where you have 10 issues that kind of all go together to make one big story. So. Yeah, certainly that's all intentional.
I have to add, I mean, you kind of opened the Superman Pandora's box.
Wait, hold on. What did you say?
You kind of opened up the Superman Pandora's box a bit. What was it like editing All-Star Superman?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I've talked about it before. Also, you didn't do much on it. You get a script from Grant, and then you gave that to Frank Whiteley. And then you gave it to Jamie Grant, the color, and you didn't really have too much input, so it's not like you're doing all that stuff. You got to read all the different pieces of it. Working on that book was kind of just trying to keep it on track, keep the publicity people happy and all those needs, and make sure everyone got paid and all that other stuff. But you have almost no input because they know exactly what they're doing. So it was a lot of fun to work on. It was I had a good relationship with like I said, Frank Whiteley, and a lot of fun working with him just as like an artist that I super admired. But yeah, it was a great book. I've read that book more than probably anybody else on the planet because I had to read it. I don't know. You read a book 8 or 9 times. You read it out when you just gotta put it through the paces. And I still pick it up and read, and I still find new things in it. And that kind of goes to the rereadability of stuff. Always kind of finding something new.
Yeah, that's something that's really important to Brandon, and I think you see in his writing a lot is he wants something that will be rewarding the more you read it, which is interesting because I'm not one to normally read things more than once, but hopefully this will be one of those things that people can read it again and again and get something new out of.
And that's the challenge. You can't, as a creator, say, I read. You didn't like it? Well, you have to read it again and again and again and again to like it. Yeah, you have to make it good on the first read.
Fifth time's charm.
So, so.
I will say, Jake and I work with Image at like the shows. We're going to be at San Diego next week. And
cool.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
Oh, sweet. Cool. Yeah, we'll see you there.
Sweet.
Probably CBDLF. Is that C?
Yeah.
CCB.
CBDLF. No, I don't know. Yeah, CBDLF.
Right.
Legal Defense Fund. Okay.
It's all there.
It's at the fancy French hotel too.
Yeah.
CBLDF.
That's always my
CBLD.
Yeah, but working the Image booth, whenever we get somebody that comes up, asking about Rocket Girl, that's always a really easy sell. It's always like, this,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you love like Akira, but you've got the teen aspect, the coming of. It's interesting because all right. While we're on that topic, what was the inspiration? I remember. I think it's in the introduction of the first issue where Brandon goes, "We can't just make a book off a cool title. Yeah. Like we can't just do something called like Rocket Girl." And then Amy's like, "But what's Rocket Girl?" Yeah. What was the impetus for this? Because it is a very kind of eclectic book that kind of wears its influences on its sleeves. But yeah, how did this all kind of come about?
Well, it was definitely a name first situation, which is very unusual, and it came about with Brandon saying that you can't start with a name. So that was the irony. We were talking about several stories we could do. because we had just done a single issue, like a all-encompassing one-shot Halloween Eve. And we liked working together, so he was coming up with some story ideas, and I was being really picky and being like, nah, that's not the one. No, that's not the one. And he started telling me, I don't know, he likes to talk, so he was saying something about how you can't do this or that, and I wasn't really listening. And he was just like, well, we can't, his point was like, you can't just start with a cool title and then come up with the story. You have to come up with the story first or something. But he's saying he used Rocket Girl as an example, like that you can't just have a cool name like Rocket Girl. And I was like, I wasn't listening, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, what was that? What's Rocket Girl? I don't remember you telling me about Rocket Girl. And he was like, no, that's my point. Like, you can't just... And I'm like, no, but what is Rocket Girl? Did you have a Rocket Girl? And I just kept bothering him. And I was finally like, well, I want to do Rocket Girl. And so he built a story from there, and that's the funny part, because I think it's a really, really clever story, and the irony is that both the name Rocket Girl and the storyline are both things that it's kind of shocking haven't been done before. Like, it's shocking that there isn't really a Rocket Girl comic book, and it's shocking that somebody hasn't done like this 80s alternate future kind of situation yet. So I feel like we were kind of lucky, in my opinion. But it definitely felt like the book to do.
Yeah, that was it. I think, as I said, I was droning on, I suppose. And I was, it's like, oh, Spider-Man, or Batman, or Rocket Girl. Like I'm making up Rocket Girl, and that got me on the hook. It was. I never remember. Was it walking back from Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con?
No, that's how you remember it. But it was.
Yeah, so I always remember it wrong. So.
We were walking past Papaya Dog.
That's
I remember because I was crossing over the gross mosquito swamp outside of that.
I think I know exactly which Papaya Dog you guys are talking about.
There's a defect in the street on the 6th Avenue and West 4th Street that always collects water. Not just when it rains, because people hose down their sidewalks, and Amy very much
right near the AFI Center, right?
IFC.
The old
IFC.
Yeah, the IFC. Yeah, the old Waverly Theater, which is in Rocket Girl. Is it? Is it 2? Is it 3? What is it?
Number 2.
Yeah.
Issue 2. We've got the Waverly Theater, which is what IFC Center used to be.
That's right near my favorite bar in all of New York.
What's your favorite bar?
The Slaughtered Lamb.
Ah, really?
Yeah, it's off of West 4th Street.
It's off what? It's about a block from McDougal, I think.
Without getting into too much detail, I live very close to the Slaughtered Lamb.
Oh,
so
well, it's a wonderful bar.
Yeah.
I like it because I get cold easily, and in the wintertime, it's always uncomfortably warm to most people.
Ridiculously hot in there.
I used to have the high score on the Miss Pac-Man machine in there.
And it was it was somehow set to super speed too. It was really impressive.
Yeah, that's funny that you like that one of all places, because I feel like most people really are not fond of that one, and I feel like everybody, if they have a favorite bar around there, it's Blind Tiger. So I'm impressed with your kitschiness.
Well,
because I like that place much more.
An American Werewolf in London happens to be one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So when I found out that there was a place called the Slaughtered Lamb, I was like, I have to go. And then there's all this werewolf stuff there, and Izzy, one of the bartender / servers there.
Shout out to Izzy.
Yeah. Oh, she's wonderful. Every time I'm back in New York, because I lived there for a couple years, but every time I'm back in New York for like New York Comic-Con or something like that, I'm like, we gotta go. I know she works weekends. We gotta stop by, say hi to Izzy, and enjoy some drinks and one of their barbecue burgers, because their barbecue burger is fantastic.
Oh, really? I did not know that. I might have to try that. Cool.
Hopefully you get Izzy serving you.
Yeah. I've never been a regular at a bar, so but maybe I'll have to make that mine. My new favorite bar in the area is called Lederhosen. It's like a really kitschy German hall. It doesn't sound as awesome as it is, but it's like got a fake little like beer hall that's actually indoors but has a skylight and like benches and stuff, and it has all the walls are painted to be like it's in the Alps.
Is it? Is the beer hall upstairs?
No, that's Hofbrau, which I have not been to yet, but I hear that's really amazing.
When you started describing it, I was like, "Is that the place that I went to?" But yeah,
Hofbrau's probably the one you went to.
Probably, yeah. I think it was a little bit further north.
Yeah, but Lederhosen, like their brat sandwiches are insane. They are so good. Like there is nothing. It's like foodie good.
Oh,
and it's cheap too.
Nice.
Always a plus in New York City.
Yeah.
I'm used to like bars in like Midtown, like Beer Authority and stuff, where it's like you're paying a little extra, but you gotta sit on the roof.
Yeah.
But okay. Here's a question we ask everybody that comes on the show: what are you guys currently geeking out over?
Oh, what am I currently geeking out over in general or in comics?
Anything, yeah. It could be comics. It could be film. We had one person brag about making milk plastic. I shit
making
you not.
What?
Milk plastic.
Yeah. It was Steve Sanders.
Milk plastic?
Next time you see Steve, the artist on Throwaways, let him know. Ask him if he's still in the plastic game. But the is that the most out there thing someone has been geeking out of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still don't know what milk plastic could possibly be.
Do you mean like the cereal box, like plastic milk molds?
I feel like it was like antiquated, like plastic, like molds, but made out of plastic, probably out of cereal, like milk jugs.
I thought it was plastic that was derived from milk.
We're not really sure.
He talked about how fun it was to play with it, but he never actually described what it was.
I think we like Google searched it, and we quickly like were just like baffled,
horrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Safe search off.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, what am I into? I'd say. Well, I don't know. I was freaking out about Handmaid's Tale. Like every single episode, I had to tweet about it. And I'm not much of a tweeter as far as like consuming things goes, but like it really blew my mind, even though it was kind of depressing. And as far as comics go, I don't know. I'm mostly geeking out about people who really think outside the box, because I think that I think too much inside the box, and I'm always trying to think outside of it. So I think like I'm always watching what's his name? The guy that does Headlopper, Andrew McLean. I'm always watching his stuff because he just does what I love. That Headlopper is just literally whatever he feels like drawing. That sounds so freeing, and yet it's really well done because of that. And I also like he makes all this merch that you don't normally see. He got his own figures made. He got patches made, and I don't know. I just feel like he's living the dream. So I'm really into him. I'm really into people that render things creatively. Like, I'm like really bad at drawing words from my brain, especially names. But, Tradmore.
Yes.
And, yeah. And also that guy.
I love that guy.
Yeah. Does he make milk plastic?
He is possibly from Eastern Europe. But he drew Starlight.
Goran Parlov.
Yeah.
That's the sync point. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. And now the listeners will know what a sync point is.
I have to feel I have to be contrary, because you know what I'm not geeking out of is the new Twin Peaks.
You know,
I'm
feeling the same way.
I like it. It's the characters. It's pretty cool. But then that last episode, not the last. There was a new one which I haven't seen yet. But for some reason there was a skip week, and then the episode before that was like just a really weird oddball one.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting to read reviews, and it's like, oh my god, this is exact. You're gonna hate it, but it's really genius. And I was like, oh, this is just. They don't know what they're doing.
No,
they don't have a story to tell. They're just kind of doing their thing. And I actually watch it, and I'll keep watching it. I'll probably keep liking it. So I don't. But it's like, it's like what happened? It's everything that that I didn't like about Twin Peaks somehow made its way back.
It's not the fun, kitschy, stuff that was going on with the original series.
Like I said, it's good and it's well done, and there's some interesting characters, but it's just so bland sometimes, and it doesn't have it doesn't have like I said. There used to be like a kind of cool flatness to it. Now it's just like a boring flatness.
And it doesn't seem to have like a real concrete underlying story.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. It's totally like the non-linear David Lynch film, but it's not a film and it's not all kind of put together, and it doesn't have this kind of unifying concept of a final edit. It's just kind of week to week of all this stuff going on. But I only say that because I do like it, and I'll keep watching the episodes. But I'm like, well, why do I like this? And it's not what it was, and everything else. But comics are.
I actually just canceled my season pass for it on the DVR.
What?
Yeah, because I was like, you know what, I'm done.
In protest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only just bought the first episode, so I'm not too far in. But it seems like it reminds me of the return of Arrested Development, where it was like so highly anticipated, and I feel like the directors, they just seem to think, okay, this is my chance to do something really experimental, but they forgot to put in heart. It just feels like it's missing the heart that it began with. So.
Yeah, like I said, just missing focus. It's because they're reintroducing these characters, and it's like, well, is this going to be 400 episodes long? Because absolutely nothing has happened.
Yeah.
With like I said, with Dale Cooper has come back and he kind of lost his memory.
Yeah.
Okay, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back slowly? No, he's the exact same he's been for 5 episodes now. Yeah. As this kind of like this off weird dude who's is he going to crack out of it? And then they put him on a case that he starts to draw something in a pencil, and then it's 2 episodes of that with nothing happening. So it's just it reminds me of when I used to be an editor at DC, and I don't want to name names, but you would get a script in on an ongoing series, and it would just be like, well, he just he didn't have anything to say, so he just put in 22 pages and figured, oh, I'll get him next month. I'll do something next month, but for now it'll just be running around doing stuff, and not like, oh, I'm gonna really let it breathe and have some energy. It was just like I have no idea what they're doing next. But as far as comics, this is gonna sound self-serving, but you're gonna have to take my word for it. I usually don't say, oh, my favorite book is my own or something like that, or try to parlay it into some free publicity. But I am so happy every day to see stuff coming from Natasha Bustos, who's doing Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And I love Natasha, and I love Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and we're 22 issues in or something like that now already. But she is so good, and it's so amazing. And it's like, talk about editing All-Star Superman, or as involved as I am in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, to kind of go back and flip through things and see something that she put in the background, or how much she changes stuff. It's like, wow, she's really not just good and not just my book. It's like she does so many amazing,
she's insanely talented,
amazing, cool things on that book, and it is so important for that book's success that even though I get to see it firsthand, even though I anticipate what's coming in, it's like I'm blown away at how good Natasha is. It's not even that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is that good. That's kind of like the bonus, but how great Natasha is, So, and it's so fun working with people. It's like that, it's the one thing I miss about being an editor is that you worked with more people. I got to work with writers and then and artists too, of course, but you do it on 8 or 10 projects at a time. So I haven't told Amy yet. I'm going to be doing something with Felipe Smith, who's one of
fun.
Nice.
Yeah, so it should be pretty cool.
Like, how with you writing and him drawing, or you drawing and him writing?
Yeah, Felipe is a brilliant writer, and he wrote Ghost Rider, obviously, but when he does his own stuff for people who want to pick up Pipochu, right?
You have to.
It's amazing, an amazing book. He created the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider for Marvel as the writer, working with Trad Moore on that first arc. But no, we're just doing a 6-page story together. That's not announced yet. But
awesome.
Just a little short in a kind of special issue. But
cool.
Nice.
I've been trying to back in the Tokyo Pop days. I always said I wanted to work with 2 people if I ever got a chance getting out of it. And a lot of other talented people too. A lot of great names came out of there, but it was always Amy and Felipe Smith, and took a long time to get Felipe. So,
cool.
And he certainly doesn't. Yeah, he certainly doesn't need me. And I almost wouldn't ask because I'm such a fan of his writing. You know what I mean, and drawing together. But it was 6 pages, so I was like, oh, this is my chance. And he was into it, so it's good. Nice. And it's going to have his Robbie Reyes in it. So
nice.
Cool.
Dreams are just dreams until you work.
It's true.
I forget which fortune cookie I read that one at.
So it was like a Walt Disney quote or something.
Yeah. Something from like Pinocchio, I would assume. But yeah, all right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to? I guess Brandon, you kind of got that. But is there anything else you guys want to plug while we got you on the show?
Well, like Amy and I co-write Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Amy stepped away largely to finish Rocket Girl.
Rocket Girl, yeah.
But the third trade, and a lot of people just kind of only get Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur in trade. That just came out in bookstores yesterday, I think, and it was in comic stores for a couple of weeks. But that's the third volume, Smartest There Is, and Moon Girl is still going strong, and that's kind of the last arc that Amy worked on. So it collects through issue 18. That was pretty cool, and that's new. And obviously Rocket Girl coming out. That's the big news.
Yeah, and with Rocket Girl, issues 9 and 10 will come out beginning of September, beginning of October, and the trade paperback should come out in December. Although I wouldn't really want to wait for that because there's probably going to be major spoilers by the time you get to issue 10. So definitely read the single issues. It will pay you back in dividends or something.
And they are,
like that.
and they are 100% done. Amy has drawn.
Oh yeah, they are.
And inked and lettered. So
yeah,
and that first volume's out, in comic book stores, Comixology, and book stores everywhere. Issues 6, 7, and soon 8 again. On Wednesday, August 2nd, are also available. Which is that first half of Arc 2. Well, guys, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Mr. Crackle, the thing about Mr. Crackle is, by the way, thanks again to Amy and Brandon for coming on the show.
Yes.
Again, issue 8 of Rocket Girl's out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, August 2nd, which is today. But, as a kid, I was all about some Mr. Crackle.
Are you more of a Mr. Goodbar now?
Is Mr. Crackle like
Goodbar now?
Yo, yeah. Oh, I had a Mr. Goodbar recently. I love some. I mean, I've had it before. Mr. Crackle, that's because
those were always like the Mr. Crackle, Mr. Goodbar. They're almost the same.
And then there's like Special Dark, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. And it's
who are you?
Well, like Mr. Crackle's like the crispy.
Crackle.
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, or whatever. Fuck, I don't get the fuck. The Crunch bars are made for that.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here, Coke. Fucking RC Cola. RC Cola of candy bars. The fuck out of my store. No, Mr. Goodbar is great.
Yeah,
I had that recently.
In my older age, I'm a bigger fan of the Mr.
Now
Goodbars.
that you can appreciate the finer things.
Yeah, like nuts. Hey,
yo.
But
that's true. I haven't had a hankering for a Crunch bar in quite some time.
I haven't had a Crunch bar in a while.
Were you historically more of a Crackle over Goodbar?
Yes, I was all about the Rice Krispie chocolate.
My movie theater snack when I was like a young buck was the Bunch of Crunch.
You were part of the tag team, the Young Bucks?
Yeah.
Also, they don't have Bunch of Crunch anymore, do they?
I don't know. I haven't
seen Bunch of Crunch in a while.
It's been too long since I've worked at a movie theater.
Yeah. Or studied a supermarket candy. I usually just grab what I want.
I usually see the peanut M&Ms and I'm like, all right, we're good. Or the Reese's. Reese's?
Oh,
Reese's?
hell yeah.
Of
Dude,
course.
Reese's
And
is
Reese's
supreme.
Pieces?
Reese's is supreme everything. Everything else we're talking about is below Reese's.
I forget.
Let's get that out of the way right now.
I forget what episode it was, but do you remember on How Did This Get Made? They went on just like a tangent. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
They went on a tangent on how you pronounce Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
Because there's I've gone both ways, but there's Reese's Pieces and Reese's Pieces.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah, it's however it's however the fuck you want to say it.
It's in the eye of the beholder, really.
Yeah. But no,
the mouth of the beholder.
Reese's is where it's at.
The ear.
Have you had the Reese's peanut butter cup that's full of Reese's peanut butter and
Pieces?
the Reese's Pieces?
I have not, but I've thought about it.
I've
had dreams about it.
I've had the one with the crunchy one.
Oh, you had?
Remember
Okay.
it came in the
Yeah, I
yellow
remember.
packet?
Yeah. Solid. Do you like the white chocolate Reese's?
They're fine.
No, I like it.
The only chocolate I want is milk.
Fair. Here's something.
A little bit of dark chocolate in like a when you're baking.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
white chocolate can just get right out of here.
It's not technically chocolate.
Yeah.
I like a good payday. Do you guys like paydays?
Payday. What? Okay.
I don't think I've ever had a payday.
Oh,
actually.
it's glorious,
Dude.
You don't like caramel that much,
Yeah,
so
no.
maybe not.
I
Whatchamacallit
think that's
bars?
why I haven't.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit?
Oh yeah.
You can get those at the Hershey store.
You can also get them at 7-Eleven.
Can you?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them in like 20 years. But then when I was living in New York, I'm in the Hershey store, and I'm like,
I feel like we
I
have
felt
to go
like
to
I was a kid in a candy store, and I was just like, "Fucking whatchamacallit?"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the fucking commercial just came back. Yeah.
Now, how
What
about
you say? Whatchamacallit?
how about the ultimate variant when I was a child?
The ultimate.
Is the
Oreo?
cookies and cream Hershey's bar.
Those were good, but the thing is, I could never finish it because it was so
Oh,
rich.
it's super rich. Yeah. Because like I'd always make the mistake. I'm like, this is the time, and I'd go in hard, and I'd hit like a ton of bricks by the end.
Just a big, huge first bite,
Yeah.
and then you're just like, oh.
Yeah,
You need milk
yeah.
to even make significant headway on one of those.
Yeah.
I don't see 100 grand bars much anymore either.
I don't.
I really liked, and I also like Nutrageous.
Nutrageous is that. It lives up to the name. That shit is nutrageous. How about the? Do you like Heath bars? I love Heath bars.
I love toffee. I
Oh,
love
Heath
toffee.
bars are
I don't
fantastic.
really like toffee.
Yeah, my grandma and I are always about the Heath bars.
I just
That's a
didn't like-
grandma thing.
Yeah, it's
Totally.
fantastic.
That and Werther's Originals.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was your stance on Baby Ruth's?
That was another one that I didn't really have.
I
too
never.
much of.
I've
Too much
never,
peanut, too salty?
Yeah, I've never gone hardcore on that. How about this? Is a no. I'll fucking yell at you for this. This is no. Almond Joys.
That's fine.
The coconut, right?
Yeah.
I hate that shit.
I'm allergic to coconut, so
Oh,
Yeah.
then
Even though
now
that's
it's
probably
right out.
that's a blessing right there.
even though that's probably artificial, but
yeah, it's a blessing.
as a child, I was like, oh, and then like
Fuck outta
because
there.
of that,
Yeah,
I just
Almond
never,
Joy is probably my least favorite. It's a
My
nightmare.
least favorite is, and I love the flavor, but I hate consuming them.
That's a nightmare.
Milk Duds.
I was about to bring that up.
I probably brought it up. We did Jurassic Park commentaries, right?
Yeah, we did.
I probably brought up in. I was with my friend Greg Bronstein, and we saw Jurassic Park 2, and I almost died in a movie theater choking on a milk dud. Not died, but it was like loud enough where it disturbed people because I was choking on it.
But I
still
feel the
hate that
same way.
movie.
Milk duds, they taste all right, but they have a weird consistency.
They do.
Not a
you
fan.
You never know what's totally going to go on with that milk dud.
I'll just go with a Rolo instead, you know?
Oh.
Rolo.
Because
That's
it's
one that you don't
soft.
see too
What's
much.
how about Whoppers? I used to get Whoppers.
Whopper,
all
I
the time.
love malted milk balls.
Whoppers
Have you got the
fantastic.
flavored ones like strawberry?
No.
Whoppers?
No, I didn't
What?
even know they had flavor.
Oh,
Wait, is this
yeah.
a recent thing that you've had, or is this like fucking Young Buck Sam?
I had it like maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, it's something that I get abroad.
Yeah.
You know what I do get abroad? Fucking like green tea Kit Kat bars or strawberry Kit Kat bars.
Strawberry, yeah. Green tea, nah.
It's surprisingly fucking delicious.
But you know what the problem is? I don't like green tea.
Oh, but
yeah.
but real quick, Kit Kats.
Kit Kats, yeah.
Mm.
I love Kit
And the
Kats.
big Kit Kats?
Yeah.
love Kit Kats.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Kit Kat that's just like one.
I love Kit Kats.
I'm gonna take a very controversial stand. I love Kit Kats.
I love them. I even like the white chocolate ones.
I feel like these are brothers in arms, or you could say arch rivals.
Man at Arms.
Fine.
Oh.
Milky Way or Three Musketeers.
See, now you're fucking shit up. No, I lean more towards Milky Way, but honestly, I'm not like big on either of them.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm a bigger fan of Milky Ways. The nougat.
Yeah.
I'll eat it.
Twix.
I love Twix.
Two for me.
I lived off
None
Twix
for
and
you.
Gushers in college.
Now, are you a left Twix or a right Twix?
I take out the right one even though I'm left-handed because
Ah.
I savor the left one because I'm
Mm.
left-handed. That's why.
Nice.
I'll just go with that.
I go full walrus myself.
You just go fucking in.
Two for the
Yeah.
price of one.
Yeah. Full
Even though you
walrus.
paid for two.
What about Snickers?
Well, I mean, again, yeah, I like Snickers. Oh, that's right. I was
We
talking
didn't talk
Milky
about
Way.
Snickers, yeah.
That's right. I feel like it's Milky Way or Snickers. Snickers over Milky Way over Three Musketeers.
Yeah. That's
I
good.
can respect that.
Behind that.
Yeah, I get behind that.
I mean, all three of them. I never had a big hat in the race, but
I mean, if someone put all three down,
yeah,
I would grab
that's
the
order.
Snickers first, the Milky Way second, and I can't remember what the third one was.
Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers.
I was in like the desert
That's
since
their
the last
legacy.
time we
Sorry,
were.
their legacy is a fucking candy bar.
Yeah. That or the DiCaprio film, which is actually decent.
Yeah, that's actually.
I was in the desert
Mm-hmm.
like last week or whatever, and I hiked for like 5 miles because I didn't know that it was a 5-mile trail.
Ah.
And so I was
That
like,
was like me around Burke Lake Park a couple weeks ago.
it read as a 2.5-mile trail, and I was like, fine, but then you have to walk it back.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So you pulled a Michael Scott. where like he has the 5K or whatever, and instead of going in a loop, he has it go all the way just one way, and they have to go
5K back. Yeah. So yeah, I ended up walking like 5 miles in July in the middle of the fucking day in fucking Joshua Tree National Park. Very beautiful.
But is that where the oh no, that's in Nevada, isn't it? I was gonna the Star Trek rock formation.
No,
it's in California.
No, the Vasquez Rocks are in California, but
it's not in Joshua Tree.
I feel like they're right outside. They're not that far outside of like Los Angeles, but there's a lot of rocks that look like it.
How fancy!
I was like, But afterwards, I just pulled into the first thing. Like as soon as I got back to the car and drove out of the park, the first thing I pulled into was like a fucking 7-Eleven. Ice cream Snickers bar with little crunchy bits of Snickers inside.
Good choice. Good choice.
That's where I'm going.
Swag.
After this, that's where I'm.
I did like the crunch ice cream bar.
Oh yeah.
Yes. This kind of this has chocolate involved, and it's a nice ice cream treat. But Choco Taco is always the go-to.
I was getting my car inspected today.
Oh,
I failed.
I feel like we're always on off years. Like if I pass, you fail. And if I fail, you pass. So sorry, buddy, because I led the charge this year.
Yeah, I feel like it's whoever goes first.
Yeah,
and whoever succeeds.
Also, this is one of those years where it's like, my car is
means that I must have passed multiple years in a row, and you must have failed multiple years.
Yeah, I did. But my thing is like,
I was due.
My thing is like, my car is not in perfect running condition. It's like 11 years old, but like this year I was still surprised it passed, but I was like, what the fuck could be wrong? Because I've fixed every possible thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a bit myself. Like I replaced the radiator recently. I replaced the hoses. I had to replace the tires. So I was like, I think I can do it, and I didn't do it. But anyway, so I'm sitting there waiting for them to inspect my car, and this old man comes walking out of the gas station that this thing's attached to, eating a Nutty Buddy, and I literally just burst out laughing.
Oh man, I'm trying to think, 'cause I usually stop by a 7-Eleven on the way home from work to get like a drink or something. And sometimes if I'm feeling skippy, I'll grab like a candy bar or something like that. And Payday is like the go-to. Like if I go in there and I'm like, I want a Payday, I'm getting a Payday. Sometimes even if I'm like, I don't know what I want, I usually grab a Payday anyway.
Do you get Paydays on your payday?
No, because I'm off on my Paydays. Let's see. That's too much.
Too on the nose.
Too on the nose. I mean. Okay, well, did we do the normal Hershey's bar? Do you like plain or with the almonds?
Almonds.
I'll go either way, but I'll take if you're giving me the choice, almonds.
Yes. Almonds, yeah.
Because I love just plain straight up milk chocolate.
Yeah.
But if you're giving me almonds too,
yeah,
got to get that protein, son.
I like to throw a little nut in it, you know.
Nutrageous.
Oh, you are nutrageous.
I'm gonna bring that back.
Do it.
Just nutrageous.
Yeah.
This is nutrageous, guys. And people stare at me like I'm a crazy person, but to be fair,
they already do.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So I'm good. I'm good, son. You saw Valerian, City of a Thousand Thousand Planets.
Yes. To segue into that.
Was it long? I feel like that movie would be long, or did it feel long?
It felt long. So here's the thing. Luc Besson, making a movie very much in the vein of like the style of Fifth Element. Looked a lot like Fifth Element. Had and I loved the look of it, the costume design, set design, all that shit. Great, wonderful. Supporting cast, background characters, all that shit. Great.
Even M. Bison, Clive Owen.
Yeah, I enjoyed M. Bison, Clive Owen. I thought everything was going fine, except for, and it pains me to say it because I love Dane DeHaan, but he was not good in the role, and neither was Enchantress
Cara Delevingne.
Yes, both of them.
Do they play brother and sister in the movie? Because they look like brother and sister.
They do kind of.
Yeah.
Now that you bring that up, I can't really not think that. But no, they play partners who are sort of lovers. It had a very James Bond Moneypenny feel to it. You know what I'm saying? Where like they're just kind of very, very flirty with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just, they were so flat, and like
that was the thing. Like in the trailer, like you said, visually all looks great.
Yeah,
I like Dane DeHaan a lot.
Yeah.
And Cara Delevingne, I think like she had some horrible shit to work with on Suicide Squad, but
to be fair, she was one of my favorite parts of Suicide Squad.
Like there was
mostly because like
I like when she was like dirty Enchantress.
Yeah, yeah. Once she was like goddess Enchantress, it was like meh.
But I remember watching the trailer and being like, things do seem flat.
Yeah.
Also, how much is Rihanna in it?
So I got real excited when Rihanna popped up because I know that was probably like your major draw. If you ever saw it, it was like, well, Rihanna's in this.
I'm still thinking about it.
She's not in it until like the third act. But she plays a pretty significant role.
Okay, sweet.
She's in it, I want to say, probably at least 15, 20 minutes.
Because everything I saw from it, every picture, every like promotional thing was from one scene.
Yeah.
Where she like changes her hair real quick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's going to be like a dance number, and that's it.
And I was really worried that was all it was going to be. But she,
cool.
Without giving too much away, she plays a shapeshifter who helps Dane DeHaan infiltrate, like helps him disguise himself to get in to this thing to save
cool.
Cara
Delevingne.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it just
It wasn't fun.
Yeah. The as much as I would have liked them to be the right actors for the role, I feel like they both either were or looked too young to be the characters that they were playing. Like I feel like it was more of a a Bruce Willis type, like he needed a little bit more gravitas to him. Like, Dane DeHaan just still looks like a kid. He still looks like John Connor from Terminator 2. And I needed at least John Connor from Terminator 3.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, nice.
But yeah, so like it had potential to be great and lots of fun. And also, and I know it's based on is it a comic book series or a graphic novel? Do you guys know?
It was a series of French comic books, so I think it was like originally like serialized and then collected.
So it really felt like it would have worked better as something that was more serialized. Like it had that kind of like Buck Rogers-y kind of like movie serial feel to it, or like it would have probably been fine as like a fucking TV miniseries. Probably wouldn't have gotten the same budget that it got to be a movie, but like I feel like if they had spread it out a little bit more, kind of like Jupiter Ascending, like just too much shit was crammed into one movie. So like even if the acting had been great, there's still like it would have been better as a series of some sort.
Fair.
But yeah, they just for a movie that itself has so much character. There's lots of colors, lots of things going on for the two leads who are in 99% of the movie to be just cardboard cutouts was super distracting. And I found myself just sitting there in my theater seat going, like doing the arm thing that I do when I'm, distressed. But I will say it was a nice experience. Like if you're interested in seeing it, I would still recommend seeing it in a theater because a movie of that scope, still kind of like warrants a big screen and a nice sound system. So like Cheap Day, like I went and saw it. I happened to wake up on one of my days off at like 9:30 and just on a whim looked at the movie schedule and saw that there was a showing at 10. So I was like, I'm going to go because my local theater, if you see a movie before 11 o'clock, it's only like $5 or whatever. So I was like, let's do it. So like on a cheap movie day where tickets are half price, I didn't feel like I wasted my money, but I did kind of wish that it had been a little bit better.
Well, is it true that there's an armadillo thing that shits like crystals?
Yes.
Is it true that Cara Delevingne sticks her head up a jellyfish creature's anus?
Yes.
I might have to see.
Are you sold?
I mean,
that's all I needed.
That and Clive Owen dressed up like M. Bison.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much is.
Maybe later. I want to see Dunkirk and I want to see The Big Sick.
Yeah.
I hear those are both fine films.
I keep hearing good things about those movies. Both of them for their own individual reasons I don't really want to see, but for the most part they just kind of look, for me at least, kind of uncomfortable. Like The Big Sick, that's the one with the Kumail Nanjiani.
Yes.
That's a dramatization of the way that he and his wife got together. Like I know that story, and I'm like, I feel like I'd be uncomfortable watching that. And also, like, it's a romantic comedy that's very light on the comedy. And then Dunkirk, one, it's a war movie, which I historically that I don't really like war movies. And two, like, one of the big things I hear about it is that it's very, like, claustrophobic and, like, intense emotionally.
Yeah, they said don't expect Saving Private Ryan, but, like, it's not like a
it doesn't
violent,
let up.
Still,
visceral type thing.
Still, overall uplifting story though.
Of course.
Oh yeah, it's an incredible story.
Your mission is to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Jake, getting anything new?
No, I went to San Diego Comic-Con with Samuel, and that was fun.
Yep.
It was a blast.
What's your favorite part of past year's show?
Just getting to see everyone and hanging with them again, like after the cons closed.
Especially like the Image crew, because we only see them like maybe once to 3 times a year tops.
Yeah, if that. And so it was nice to see them again. And San Diego's like the show. It was Sam and our first show that we did with them.
Yeah. This is the third now.
Third
San Diego,
which is insane. Yeah. And so it's just a lot of fun.
It is. I will say I didn't get to walk the show floor as much as I did in the past 2 San Diegos, which is fine. I'm there to work, but and for me the coolest part, meeting the Image crew or hanging out with the Image crew, playing David Brothers and chess, my editor on Image Plus and that sort of thing. And he's emailing me Big O. It's an anime.
I know it.
Yeah,
it was on while I was into anime on Toonami.
It was, yeah. And
I never watched it, but I know it was on.
I didn't either, so I'm looking forward to it. But and also like meeting people we've had on the show. To say that like we've developed a relationship with them would be too strong a term, but for some of them, I would go that far. Like hanging out with like Zach Kaplan or John Lehman. I got to see other people that we've had on the show before. Amy Reeder, who's on this week's episode. Grace Ellis and Shay Beagle. Fucking Josh Williamson. Jason Latour, who immediately knew about this program or remembered his experience on this program because it was so. Andrew Iden, who did March and the Bitch Planet triple feature. Yeah, it's always good kind of. Joe Harris, Megan Hutchison, who I didn't fuck up with like musical references this time.
Oh,
nice.
I know. Progress.
Red Hot Chili Peppers guys, right?
They caught me wearing
Blink-182.
Yeah. Fleetwood Mac over Van Halen. Yeah, so, it's
Van Hagar, right, guys?
yeah, that's the true Van Halen, right?
No, it's the other one. I can never remember his name, but the third lead singer, the guy that was the lead singer for Extreme.
Yeah, God.
Hey, you know what, Jake? You'll enjoy this. That iteration of Van Halen got a song in the Lethal Weapon movies.
Oh,
Lethal
they're
Weapon
my favorite.
4, but
there you have. But yeah, and just following up and kind of like I'm certain there is obviously a divide. I'm not part of that world, but it's cool, kind of like brushing up against it every so often.
I mean, you're dipping your toe in it,
more or less.
Yeah.
I guess I translated a book and I write a magazine.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
and you sold.
I did.
You sold the Beowulf.
The Beowulfs, yeah, and they brought more Beowulfs than they did in Seattle. Yeah, it was. I mean, my favorite story about that is the first and only copy of Beowulf I sold on Thursday. Was this one dude, and actually I think it was like Vernon that was selling it. I just happened to be behind the counter near him. And the guy buys it, and I was like, "Hey, cool, man! If you want, I can sign that." And he's like, "No, I'm good," and like walks away. And I was just
did he know that you were involved with it?
I think Vernon told him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's how Vernon would.
So I was gonna say, like, if you just walked up and said, "You want me to sign it?" I'd be like, "Who the fuck are you? And why are you working behind the booth?"
Just like runs.
Yeah. No, because Vernon was pretty good at like he'd point you out.
What do you think this is? A yearbook?
Yeah.
Hags.
Have a great summer. The most
too cool to be forgotten.
The most Comic-Con-y thing that happened though, we were at a party and I was waiting somewhere and I saw an old man wearing a Nightwing shirt and I was just like, "Oh, hey, that's a really cool shirt, man." He was like, "Thanks." And I kind of like do that thing where I'm just kind of like, while neurons are firing, just smiling and nodding. And then I was like, "Oh, you're Marv Wolfman. You made Dick Grayson Nightwing." And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, well done." He's like, as he walks away, he was like, "In your defense, it is a nice shirt."
That's pretty good.
Yes.
And that's how I met the creator of Nightwing.
Wonderful. I love that he wears a Nightwing shirt.
That's the best.
That'd be like you wearing a Beowulf shirt in English.
Yeah.
But it has like the Spanish like crossed out.
Yeah.
La Beowulf.
Yeah. Traduska, poor Sam Stone. Yeah.
I might have to get that shirt for you.
Sure.
I might have to get that shirt made.
Wear it in Baltimore.
I have what, 2 weeks to get it for your birthday?
Yeah, God. Yeah, that's coming up. Good Lord. By the time this thing posts, a week and a half.
I did. I happened to stumble upon what I thought was quite a neat present for Jake, if I may put you on the spot. I delivered it to him today because it happened to come in. But I know Jake's been kind of into vinyl recently, and I kind of took a shot in the dark. I was like, I feel like he has positive vibes for the White Stripes, and so like there was a what's the album called again? Does it say it there? But it's a Jack White solo album. Lazaretto. But so someone I follow on Instagram, I think, bought it and was like, "Hey, check out how cool this is. It's one of those records that has a hologram on it. So while you're spinning it, the light reflects off of the etched side and like produces a hologram. And what it is, it's a little spinning angel that just spins around while the record's playing. But then another thing, if that was not enough, another layer to this record is that it also, on that side...
Yeah, side one.
Yeah, on side one, you drop the needle closer to the center of the disc versus the outer edge like you do on the majority of your records. So it actually... the needle goes outward as opposed to going inward for that side of the record. And I mean, it's pretty good album.
Yeah,
too.
no, it's like side one is very more rock and roll. Side two is more kind of bluesy, little slower tempered. But I mean, I haven't delved like too far into the Jack White solo stuff. I mean, he had like a million bands post White Stripes that I really liked.
Yeah, I liked the Raconteurs.
The Raconteurs, yeah. And I know Blunderbuss was a solo album he had that was very highly regarded that I listened to a little bit. But I really dug what I heard on this. So I appreciate it, and it is cool, like having like the hologram and playing into out on side one. It's funny, side two we thought maybe play, and then we put it in just the end of the album.
Oh, okay.
I
guess we'll put it on the other end,
like
a boring regular
like a normal.
album.
Yeah, like I'm glad you told me too, because that would have been a very confusing side one.
Yeah, and then that reminded me of a record that I've heard about that I'd like to track down, but it's one of the Monty Python comedy albums. On the record, depending on where you drop the needle, it's actually one of, I think, 2 sets that they did, and like so the way that the record is engraved, there's 2 tracks. So like if you drop the needle on one end, you get one set of jokes, and if you drop the needle on the other end, you get a different set of jokes just because of the way that the tracks run. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
There was something I was gonna get and I can't find it. But I remember seeing it, and I was like, this would be perfect. And the thing I was going to get Jake for his birthday was a picture of luchadors posing with their mothers. I can't find it anymore.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Amazon, you're letting me down.
Lucha Madres.
Lucha Madres.
Like, all these like really buff Mexican men in masks
yeah, baby.
hanging out with their moms like in their living rooms. I can't.
I totally
find it.
yeah. I was like, oh shit, our birthday is soon.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I kind of got away from, and I'm going to Seattle, not this coming weekend, but next weekend.
Do you want to borrow my Fraser shirt?
You want me to? I'll just take the most miserable selfie in Seattle.
It's impossible if you're wearing the Fraser shirt.
and you walk every restaurant you walk into, you're like, can I get a tossed salad with scrambled eggs?
Yeah, and they'll just throw me out.
They're like, we fucking hate you.
Yeah, every single one of them. But no, I'm going there for a wedding, so yeah, it's kind of wild. I don't have a lot of time to plan the old birthday festivities. I'm sure I'll throw something together before too long. Probably do the old full week thing where you do stuff for the Northern Virginia crowd, stuff for the Fairfax Centerville crowd, stuff for the Arlington crowd, and stuff for the DC crowd. Because it's tough.
Jesus.
Well, it's tough coordinating all that. You
Yeah.
know, I can never get them all to come to one fucking place.
Come on, guys. Let's just all go to the old shebeen.
Yeah. That'll probably be the Fairfax stuff.
Yeah.
Probably won't be George this year. And then,
That's right. We did that last year, man.
yeah, and then Arlington will probably be somewhere like in Courthouse, and DC will probably be Exiles on U Street. So, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks again to Amy Reeder and Brandon Montclair for coming on the show. Rocket Girl again returns with issue number 8 on comic book stores and Comixology today. So check it out. Get that get that volume 1 if you haven't caught up on, or if you've never read Rocket Girl before. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
We just posted a book review yesterday, so check that out and listen to it. Yeah. Well, you guys got anything you wanna add?
No.
Real quick, I did buy Free Fire, the movie, the with the Brie Larson and
Chartel Copley
and Game.
Maximum Hammer.
Yeah. Yes. And I was very happy with it. You know, I was very sad that it had such a flash in the pan, release in theaters.
Yeah.
Especially since it felt like there was a lot of hype behind.
Well, they kept pushing it back too.
Yeah, and then it was at the Angelica for a day, and I was like, really? Because I got there, I randomly was going to see a movie there the same day, and I was about to switch my ticket out, but then I saw that it was it's only a 4:30 p.m. show, and I was like, I'm here for the 7 o'clock. Shit. But I saw that it was coming out on DVD, and I was like, well, I'm getting that. I just on a whim bought it, and it was actually a pretty sound purchase, I will say. It's a very, very high tension movie. It's very it's a lot like Reservoir Dogs in the sense that it's like a bottleneck of a story, but there's it never cuts away. It stays inside the warehouse.
Like a play.
Yeah, like a play. Like Hitchcock's Rope.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. And also one of my favorite movies of his. But yeah, so but it's very good. It's very it does a good job of keeping the tension, and it'll ramp up every once in a while, and then it'll calm down, and then it'll ramp up again, calm down, and I think it does a very good job with the pacing. And right at the moment where you're like, okay, I'm kind of getting tired of them just shouting at each other from across the warehouse, and no action's happening, and then boom, there's a sniper that comes in who's not affiliated with anyone, and then you're like, oh, who the fuck is that? And then it gets very actiony, and it's a well paced slow burn. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But I was watching it, and I was like, oh wow, I was watching it. I was like, oh, it feels like about the first act has finished. Right when the shooting starts, and I looked over and I was like, huh. Right at the 20-minute mark, it's like a textbook script writing, thing in a good way, much like how Back to the Future is, textbook script writing.
Batman 89 too. Everything kind of happens in 15.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I recommend if you have the ability to check it out, I recommend checking it out. I gave Jake the UV code because I know you kids and your ultraviolets.
The voodoo.
Yes.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Chicken.
Good night, Eric.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.